Have you ever woken up feeling strangely exhausted, swollen in the ankles, or weighed down by a kind of heaviness you can't explain only to be told it's just aging? Because if that sounds familiar, I want you to pause for a moment. What you're feeling might not be age at all. It might be the earliest and most overlooked warning sign that your kidneys are struggling silently beneath the surface. And here's the part most people never hear until it's too late. When creatinine begins to rise, it rarely shouts. It whispers. It hides behind fatigue, behind muscle weakness, behind that dull, restless discomfort that you can't quite put your finger on. But once it climbs past a certain point, your kidneys can lose up to 40% of their function before you even realize something is wrong. That is why this conversation matters right now, not tomorrow, not next year. I'm Dr. Richard Hale, and in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you something that goes completely against what most people think. Because despite the fear many seniors have about protein damaging the kidneys, there are 10 specific protein sources that do the opposite. They help your kidneys filter better lower creatinine levels, naturally reduce inflammation around the nephrons, and support long-term kidney recovery in ways medications alone simply cannot. And before you think this sounds too good to be true, let me make one promise. What you're about to hear isn't theory. It comes from real clinical cases, real patient outcomes, and scientific data from the most respected medical institutions in the United States. If you've been battling swelling morning fatigue, brain fog, or creatinine numbers that keep creeping higher no matter what you do, then stay with me. Because the very first protein on this list is one most Americans eat weekly, yet almost nobody realizes how powerful it can be for the kidneys when used the right way. When we talk about lowering creatinine quickly and safely, most people expect some exotic supplement or a complicated medical routine. But the truth is far simpler, and it begins with one of the cleanest, most kidney-friendly proteins on the planet: egg whites. I still remember a patient named Margaret, a 67-year-old woman from Arizona, who came into my clinic exhausted, swollen around her ankles, and terrified because her creatinine refused to drop. She had tried cutting out protein, completely believing it would protect her kidneys, but all it did was weaken her muscles and worsen her fatigue. When I asked what she ate for breakfast, she hesitated, then said, "Mostly toast, sometimes nothing." And that's when we made one small change that transformed everything. Egg whites became her morning anchor. 3 whites give you 11 grams of pure albumin, the exact same protein used in hospital nutrition formulas for kidney patients, without the phosphorus, cholesterol, or potassium load that forces your kidneys to work overtime. NIH research shows that lowering phosphorus intake can sharply reduce filtration stress, and egg whites do exactly that, while still keeping your muscles strong enough to support recovery. Within 4 weeks, Margaret's creatinine began to fall, her energy returned, and she looked like someone who had finally found her footing again. If you've ever felt afraid to eat protein because you worry it will damage your kidneys, egg whites are the exception that proves the rule. They nourish without burdening, strengthen without straining, and give your kidneys the breathing room they desperately need. But knowing about egg whites is only the beginning, because the next source of protein works in a completely different way, one that supports detox, stabilizes blood sugar, and surprises almost everyone who tries it. But only knowing this isn't enough, because the next protein hides a benefit most people never expect. And that brings us to a protein source that surprises almost everyone, especially those who think plant proteins don't do much. In reality, lentils are one of the most underestimated tools for lowering creatinine naturally, and I've seen them change the trajectory of kidney health more times than I can count. Take Robert, a 72-year-old retired engineer from Michigan. He came to me frustrated because his creatinine kept climbing, even though he'd cut out red meat and switched to what he believed was a kidney-safe diet. But when we reviewed his meals, I noticed something important. He was getting almost no fiber, no stable plant protein, and nothing that supported detox at the metabolic level. So we added one simple habit: half a cup of cooked lentils with his lunch. Within 3 weeks, his blood sugar stabilized, his afternoon fatigue eased, and most importantly, his creatinine finally began to move downward. Lentils work differently than egg whites. Their protein generates significantly less metabolic waste, which means the kidneys don't have to filter as aggressively. Harvard research shows that replacing just a portion of animal protein with legumes can improve kidney filtration efficiency over time. Add in the soluble fiber which traps toxins in the gut before they re-enter the bloodstream, and the arginine that boosts circulation to kidney tissue, and you get a plant-based powerhouse that supports healing on multiple fronts. Most people never imagine that something as ordinary as lentils could make such a dramatic difference, but that's exactly why they're so powerful. They're simple, predictable, and incredibly gentle on the kidneys. Still, even lentils don't hold the most surprising benefit on this list, because the next protein introduces a completely different mechanism, one that rebuilds the gut-kidney connection from the inside out. But only knowing this isn't enough, because the next factor hides a danger most people never see coming. And if lentils strengthen the kidneys through gentle detox and balanced plant protein, then Greek yogurt supports them through an entirely different doorway, the gut. Most people don't realize that kidney recovery begins in the digestive tract, but once you understand the gut-kidney axis, everything changes. I'm reminded of Linda, a 64-year-old grandmother from Ohio, who struggled with unpredictable bloating spikes in creatinine and a constant foggy feeling that made even simple tasks feel heavy. She had tried everything: low-sodium meals, cutting back on meat, drinking more water, but nothing moved the needle. Then one afternoon, as she was describing her symptoms, I asked a simple question: how often do you eat fermented foods? She looked at me puzzled and said, never. I didn't know that mattered. That's when we introduced plain Greek yogurt into her routine, just 1 cup mid-morning. Within 10 days, her digestion eased, her energy began to stabilize, and her creatinine, which had been stubborn for months, finally dipped. Greek yogurt works because it delivers live probiotics that help break down uremic toxins in the gut before they slip back into the bloodstream. NIH studies show that improving gut bacterial balance can reduce toxic load on the kidneys and enhance filtration efficiency. Combine that with natural calcium B12 and slow-releasing protein, and you get a kidney-supporting food that works quietly but powerfully behind the scenes. But the real magic is that Greek yogurt doesn't just feed the body, it reduces the internal inflammation that often blocks kidney repair. And once that barrier is lowered, the kidneys finally get the breathing room they need to recover. Still, even this powerful tool doesn't address one of the most damaging forces affecting kidney health every single day. But only knowing this isn't enough, because the next factor hides a danger most people never see coming. And once the gut-kidney connection begins to improve, there's a hidden opportunity to push recovery even further by targeting something most people overlook: inflammation inside the tiny filtering units of the kidneys. This is where chia seeds quietly shine. I remember a man named Steven, 70 years old, from North Carolina, who came into my clinic constantly battling morning stiffness, swollen hands, and creatinine levels that hovered just above the safe zone. He insisted he was doing everything right, but when we looked closely, he was missing one critical ingredient: omega-3 fats. Not the heavy fish oil kind that can upset digestion, but a gentle plant-based source the body absorbs naturally. So we started with 1 tablespoon of soaked chia seeds each morning. Nothing fancy, just chia warm water and a few minutes of patience. Within 2 weeks, Stephen noticed something he hadn't felt in months: lighter legs, better mornings, and far less pressure around his joints. By week 4, his creatinine had decreased and his lab markers for inflammation were finally trending downward. Chia seeds work because they deliver plant-based omega-3s, magnesium fiber, and antioxidants in a form the kidneys tolerate exceptionally well. Mayo Clinic data confirms that omega-3s can reduce nephron inflammation and support healthier filtration, while soluble fiber helps trap toxins in the gut before they circulate back into the bloodstream. The real advantage, though, is how chia seeds soften metabolic stress. When soaked, they form a gentle gel that supports digestion, stabilizes blood sugar, and keeps the kidneys from being overwhelmed by sudden spikes in metabolic waste. It's a small action with a massive ripple effect on kidney health. But even chia seeds don't address the next challenge, a challenge tied directly to the protein most Americans eat without realizing how much stress it places on the kidneys. But only knowing this isn't enough, because the next factor hides a danger most people never see coming. And once inflammation is brought under control with something as simple as soaked chia seeds, we can finally talk about a protein that often gets misunderstood, yet remains one of the cleanest, safest, and most supportive options for anyone trying to lower creatinine chicken breast. Not fried chicken, not rotisserie loaded with sodium, but pure, lean, gently cooked chicken breast. I'm reminded of Carol, a 69-year-old woman from Texas, who walked into my office frustrated because every time she tried eating protein, she felt bloated, heavy, and drained. She believed she had to avoid meat entirely to protect her kidneys, and as a result, she was getting weaker every month. Her legs felt shaky, her posture collapsed easily, and her labs showed rising creatinine because her body was breaking down its own muscle tissue for fuel. So we tried a different approach. Instead of cutting protein, we swapped it. 3 ounces of baked chicken breast seasoned with rosemary and a squeeze of lemon, no salt. No butter became her daily staple. The turnaround was remarkable. Within 3 weeks, her strength improved, her afternoon crashes faded, and her creatinine finally dropped. The science behind this is clear. Chicken breast offers complete amino acids with very low phosphorus and low saturated fat, reducing the metabolic waste that can overwhelm the kidneys. The National Kidney Foundation reports that low phosphorus animal proteins help stabilize nitrogen balance, making it easier for the kidneys to filter without strain. Chicken breast supports the body in a way few other proteins can. It fuels muscle repair, prevents tissue breakdown, and keeps metabolism active, all crucial when trying to reverse high creatinine. But even with its benefits, chicken still can't solve the next hidden threat, one linked to a food millions of Americans snack on daily without realizing how it affects their kidneys. But only knowing this isn't enough, because the next factor hides a danger most people never see coming. And once clean animal protein like chicken breast helps rebuild lost strength, there's another layer of kidney protection that most people overlook entirely: the power of targeted antioxidants. This is where almonds step in, not as a casual snack, but as a strategic kidney support food. I think of Denise, a 66-year-old retired teacher from Colorado, who struggled with afternoon crashes, tingling feet, and creatinine levels that refused to stabilize. She snacked constantly, but on the wrong things: pretzels, granola bars, crackers, foods that spiked her blood sugar and fueled inflammation around her kidneys without her even realizing it. So we made one simple change. Instead of processed snacks, we replaced her mid-afternoon habit with a small handful of raw, unsalted almonds. Within a week, she noticed steadier energy. By the 3rd week, her swelling had eased, and her kidney markers finally stopped climbing. Why? Because almonds deliver vitamin E, magnesium plant protein, and healthy fats that calm oxidative stress, the silent force that damages kidney cells day after day. Research from the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases shows that antioxidants like vitamin E can slow kidney aging and reduce inflammation inside the nephrons, the tiny filters responsible for clearing toxins. But almonds aren't just nutritious, they stabilize blood sugar, improve circulation, and give the kidneys the consistent environment they need to heal. The key is moderation: around 10 to 15 almonds a day, never roasted in oils or coated in salt. That small shift can reshape how your kidneys function over time. Yet even almonds can't address the next challenge, a challenge tied directly to inflammation that starts deep within the bloodstream and affects filtration more than most people realize. But only knowing this isn't enough, because the next factor hides a danger most people never see coming. And once antioxidants like those in almonds begin calming the cellular stress inside the kidneys, it becomes possible to address one of the most powerful levers of kidney recovery: inflammation deep in the bloodstream. This is where wild salmon stands in a league of its own. I'll never forget Michael, a 71-year-old former truck driver from Oregon, who told me he felt like his blood was thick and heavy. His creatinine kept rising, his ankles ballooned by evening, and his blood pressure was a constant battle. He believed his diet was the problem, but he didn't know where to begin fixing it. So we started small. Just 2 servings of wild-caught salmon per week. Not fried, not drenched in sauces, but gently baked with herbs and a squeeze of lemon. Within weeks, Michael noticed something remarkable: clearer. Morning, steadier breathing and swelling that finally began to recede. When his labs came back, his creatinine had dipped and his inflammatory markers were lower than they'd been in months. The reason is simple yet profound. Salmon delivers EPA and DHA, 2 omega-3 fatty acids, proven by the National Kidney Foundation, to reduce kidney inflammation, improve glomerular filtration, and relax blood vessels so the kidneys aren't constantly fighting pressure. These omega-3s act like firefighters, moving through the bloodstream, cooling hotspots of inflammation that silently damage kidney tissue. And when the pressure inside those delicate filters drops, the kidneys finally get a chance to breathe and repair. But even salmon, with all its healing potential, doesn't confront the next issue, one tied to a protein millions of Americans use daily without realizing how its acidity affects kidney function and metabolic stress. But only knowing this isn't enough, because the next factor hides a danger most people never see coming. And once salmon begins cooling the inflammation deep within the bloodstream, there's another opportunity to support the kidneys, one that has nothing to do with fish meat or dairy, but instead comes from one of the cleanest plant-based proteins available today, pea protein. I think of Janet, a 68-year-old woman from Illinois who came to me feeling defeated. She told me, "Dr. Hale, every protein I try either upsets my stomach or makes my creatinine worse." She wanted strength, but everything she ate left her bloated, uncomfortable, and worried she was harming her kidneys without realizing it. That's when I introduced her to something different. 1 scoop of high-quality, low-sodium pea protein powder taken midday or after a light walk. She was hesitant at first, expecting it to taste chalky or cause digestive issues. But within a week, she felt calmer, lighter, and stronger. And within a month, her creatinine finally dropped after being stuck for nearly a year. The science behind pea protein is straightforward. It contains 20 to 25 grams of clean protein per scoop with very low purine content. That means far less nitrogen waste for the kidneys to filter. A Stanford nutrition review found that pea protein supports lean muscle mass while placing minimal strain on kidney filtration. It's also alkalizing. It reduces acid load in the body, something that heavily influences kidney stress. Add its natural iron and arginine, which improves circulation and oxygen delivery, and you get a protein that strengthens without overwhelming. Pea protein is gentle, predictable, and ideal for people whose kidneys can't tolerate heavier proteins. But even this clean, kidney-friendly option doesn't address the next hidden challenge, a challenge tied to a food that millions believe is healthy, yet can quietly push creatinine higher. But only knowing this isn't enough, because the next factor hides a danger most people never see coming. And once a clean plant-based option like pea protein begins restoring strength without overwhelming the kidneys, it opens the door to a different kind of protein, one that works slowly, steadily, and quietly supports kidney function hour by hour. That's the unique power of cottage cheese. Not the sugary flavored versions sitting on supermarket shelves, but pure, low-sodium cottage cheese, rich in casein, a slow-digesting protein that feeds the body gently. I think of Rosa, a 70-year-old woman from New Mexico who told me she felt drained by midday no matter what she ate. Her creatinine hovered stubbornly above normal, and she experienced waves of fatigue that made even simple chores exhausting. She didn't need more caffeine or more food. She needed steady nourishment her kidneys could tolerate. So we introduced half a cup of low-sodium cottage cheese into her late morning routine, paired with berries and fresh herbs. The results were unmistakable. Within 2 weeks, her energy lasted longer, her digestion improved, and her creatinine, which had barely budged in months, finally showed a downward shift. What makes cottage cheese so effective is its slow-release casein, which provides a steady supply of amino acids without creating large bursts of nitrogen waste. Studies from the Cleveland Clinic highlight the gut-kidney connection, showing that probiotics in fermented dairy help lower uremic toxins, reducing the burden on kidney filtration. Cottage cheese doesn't overwhelm the system. It stabilizes blood sugar, reduces acid load, and creates a calmer internal environment for the kidneys to work. But even this gentle protein doesn't prepare you for the final option, the one that delivers complete amino acids and the deepest level of kidney support without triggering inflammation. But only knowing this isn't enough, because the next factor hides a danger most people never see coming. And after cottage cheese provides that slow, steady release of nourishment your kidneys can truly work with, we come to a protein source that many people overlook simply because it doesn't look powerful at first glance. Yet in clinical practice, it consistently delivers some of the most reliable improvements in kidney stability, energy levels, and creatinine control. I'm talking about quinoa, a humble grain that acts more like a complete protein than most foods in the average American diet. I think of Samuel, a 75-year-old man from Vermont, who told me he felt inflamed from the inside out. Bread made him sluggish. Pasta spiked his blood sugar. Rice left him bloated. He wanted energy, but everything he ate seemed to push his creatinine higher. So we made one strategic change. Instead of using rice or processed carbs as his side dish, we replaced them with 1 cup of cooked quinoa, rinsed thoroughly and prepared with a light drizzle of olive oil. Within 10 days, he noticed smoother digestion and more stable energy. After 6 weeks, his creatinine finally dipped below the level that had scared him for months. The reason is simple: quinoa contains all 9 essential amino acids, making it a complete protein, yet it produces far less metabolic waste than animal protein or starchy high glycemic carbs. Harvard School of Public Health research shows that quinoa's magnesium and antioxidant profile help reduce oxidative stress inside the kidneys while supporting better filtration pressure. Quinoa is gentle, balanced, and incredibly kidney-friendly. It stabilizes blood sugar, reduces inflammation, and supports muscle repair without overwhelming the filtration system. But even a nutrient powerhouse like quinoa doesn't address the deeper layer of kidney recovery, the layer tied to lifestyle circulation and the way your kidneys reset while you rest. But only knowing this isn't enough, because the next factor hides a danger most people never see coming. At this point, I hope you can feel something shifting, not just in the information you've learned, but in the confidence you now have to take back control of your kidney health. And I want to remind you of something important. Improving creatinine isn't about perfection. It isn't about doing everything at once or following some impossible routine. It's about small, consistent steps. It's about choosing the foods that support you rather than drain you. And most of all, it's about believing that change is still possible no matter what age you are or what your numbers looked like last month. If today's video helped you understand your kidneys in a clearer, calmer, more hopeful way, then please take a moment to save this video. You never know when you'll want to come back to it on a difficult day, after a new lab result, or simply when you need reassurance that your health is still within your hands. And if you haven't yet, I'd truly appreciate it if you subscribe to this channel. Not for the numbers, but because I share new kidney-saving insights every single week, grounded in science, guided by real patient stories, and crafted to help you avoid unnecessary fear, stress, or confusion. If protecting your kidneys matters to you, then staying connected means you will never miss an update that could make a meaningful difference. Before we close, here's the message I want you to carry with you. Your kidneys are not fragile, they are resilient. They respond to care. They respond to nourishment. They respond to hope, consistency, and attention. And even if your creatinine has been rising, even if you felt discouraged, there is still a path forward. You have more power over your kidney health than you've ever been told. And I'll be right here guiding you every step of the way.